this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game news. It is January 7th, 2022, and these are the top stories of the day. To kick things off, we have some unfortunate news, to go over, and that is that E3 2022, originally set for this June, is no longer going to be an in-person event. Instead, it's going to be online only, just like it was last year, and this is bittersweet. The bitter part is I was really looking forward to potentially going back to an in-person E3. Obviously, the show means a lot to me, having gone from 2000 to 2019, 20 E3s, over half of my life right there. Of course, we skipped 2020, 2021. It was nice seeing it back in some capacity, that awesome E3 logo, the vibe of E3, video game developers showcasing their content online. Not everybody came to the party and participated, but Nintendo was there, Microsoft was there, Ubisoft, Capcom. Some of those companies didn't produce as many banger videos, so to speak, but Nintendo, I think, really delivered and won the show, kind of saved the show. But what I was really hungry for, and I think a lot of people were hungry for, was back to an in-person event, the spectacle. You meet up with old friends, you see giant booths, you're walking around, you're talking to publishers, developers, getting a vibe of the industry, what's going to be hot, what's coming up soon. The swag is also cool, the costumes that people put into, taking pictures left and right. It's a lot of fun. Street passes for a certain time there. I love E3. There's nothing quite like it. With 2022 still being, in a pandemic and different variants going out there and whatnot, I could understand why, for the safety of people. You've got 40, 50,000 people indoors primarily, lines crammed together. Would you make it masks? Would you make it, vaccinations required, ID, certifications, temperature checks around every corner? Would you allow international travel? There's a lot to it, and I could see why they just said, all right, online only, and we'll see what happens. So the bitter part is that it's online and not in person, but the sweet part is that it's still happening, because I'll take it. And some folks out there say, what's even the purpose of E3 branding anymore? Well, because E3 is significant. There are enough gamers out there that know and recognize E3 as a powerful platform for the video game industry to come together and showcase new material. It's been covered for years, since before I was even attending, in the 90s. And I think there's part of that recognition that still exists. Now, if you slowly let E3 fade away, after 2020's absence, let's say 2021, it didn't happen, 2022, it didn't happen, 2023, it didn't happen again. At that point, you've got 4 years go by, other companies, other businesses, summer games event, video games, the Game Awards, I should say, not Video Game Awards, but the Game Awards, different directs filling in the gaps, different online things. If they kept on keeping on for a few years, the older generation, which makes up the majority of people, since the majority of people that are gamers right now have been around long enough to be aware of what E3 is from print, from online, but eventually you would get those people starting to care less and less, and the new gamers that are younger and have grown up in a world where E3 hasn't been around 4 years, 5 years, it's 2024 with no E3 now, they're not going to even care. History is important, but if history isn't being taught, if something is not culturally relevant still, something dies off very quickly in the mindsets of others. But until that happens, until they give it up and allow too long of a gap to take place between, the last E3 and the next, E3 is still a powerful name, and I think it is still that, and that's why they don't want it to go away, and I don't want it to go away either, personally. It would be a pretty powerful decision to say, fine, we're done, and we're not coming back, but that doesn't seem to be the case. we'll see though, because there are plenty of people right now that are even, just a year removed, just 2 years removed from an in-person event. As of last year, even. A lot of folks are saying, do we need this? We don't need this. But I don't think that represents the majority. I'd say that the majority of people do want the show to exist because they do recognize that it means something. So, I'm just reporting the news that it's not going to be in person, sharing a little bit of my disappointment, but understanding why, and giving some hope that, hey, the world's going to get healthier, things are going to get better, we're going to find a new norm. Will the new norm be exactly what the old one was? Optimistic me says, yes, it'll go back to the way it was for the last 38 years that I've been alive, right? But the cautious me says it's going to be a new norm that's close to, but different enough that it feels different enough, and then that's going to be the way of life for the foreseeable several year future. Now, could things eventually get back to completely normal after a several year run? Maybe. That's the hope. I've got kids myself, right? I know I'm going off on a different tangent now, but I want them to have a very full, non-compromised life. Right now, it's not felt too much, I think, for youth. If you are a responsible, parent that brings good quality effort with your parenting. Because even though there are some things that are felt different in young kids' lives today than there were a few years ago or from your own youth, now's the time to be, A+ quality mom or dad, right? You're riding bikes, playing video games, reading, drawing, writing, coloring, doing homework, painting pictures, teaching how to swim, go over martial arts, do some archery. You've got karate, old school games, movies, comic book reading. Like, there's so much in terms of education, entertainment, life skills, sports, playing catch, balance, strengthening yourselves, cardio. Like, so much that you could do positive right now that probably most in their youth didn't have all of that 100% access from their parents, right? They had what they had, some more than others. But now if you hold yourself to a moral accountability as a parent, guardian, what have you, and are doing all you can to your children, for your children, that's going to, bridge the gap, and it's going to be a different type of life than you had in your adolescence, than maybe even they had in their first several years of life, but it's going to be offset by the amount of quality more that you're putting into them. I know you probably don't come to my channel for life advice, most of you. You come for martial arts or for video game stories. However, it got me thinking, and I thought I would share the thoughts, all from E3. Look at that. Okay, moving on, though, to actual video game news after this E3 story, and me going on a little bit different. Christina Aguilera, once again, teamed up with Nintendo. This latest video is called Christina Aguilera and her family make memories with Nintendo Switch. Let's push play. It's a 1 minute, 21 second video, and it's going to feature Pokemon Legends Arceus and Among Us. Here we go.
What are you doing, Sammy? You show me what you're playing? I'm gonna look for a Pokemon. Whoa,
Cool.
where did you go? Can I try? I see something over there. I caught one! Yay! Alright, it's your turn.
That's fun.
Okay, let's do it. Are you ready for me?
I'm ready.
Blue's looking a little sus.
Red's also looking a little sus.
Mm-hmm. Calling a meeting. Okay. Oh,
I knew it was you, Mom.
really? Blowed out your own mother?
That's how it works.
I'm gonna remember that. There she is. Let's go get the door. Hi, Babe. Hello, Babe. Baby Roka's here. How are you? Ready for our favorite? Let's do this.
Uranus?
Get ready, guys.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh my gosh, this takes me back. I know, right? How many times do you think we must have played this game?
Can't even count.
Wait, who threw that?
It was me.
I'm in the lead. This isn't good, guys.
Making new memories. That's my way to play. Nintendo Switch.
That's awesome. Okay, I love it. Like that's so cool. That's so cool for me to see. I love Nintendo, and obviously, growing up with Nintendo in my youth through teenage years into young adulthood, now as a dad, uh, I have different moments in life where, Nintendo was a very strong part of my upbringing, and now with children, getting to share that love and that passion of so many different franchises with them. It's just cool to see something like this. Yes, they're acting. Yes, there are a bunch of camera people all around, people holding boom mics and stuff like that to make this, elongated commercial a thing. But Christina Aguilera, like Brie Larson, like Neil Patrick Harris, are actual Nintendo fans. So when they team up with Nintendo, when they're chosen to do something like this, it's real. They're having fun. They're acting, but they believe in the product and they enjoy what they're doing. So I think it's cool. Obviously, we saw Christina Aguilera with her kids a couple of months ago doing one of these, and we had an interview with her talking about the history of her and Nintendo and how it's a big place in her household and stuff like that. So this is all really cool. So I hope you liked it too. Let me know what you thought of that commercial. This was my first watch of it. Prior, I just saw the stills, so that was very pleasant. And honestly, bring it on. I think it's smart. Christina Aguilera is still popular. Might as well team up with other similar people of a celebrity stature that are still relevant, still well liked by a lot of fans out there in the world, and yeah, do some good. Okay. Here's where things are going to get a little bit interesting. For a good while now, I have been covering video game news, and part of video game news also is my love of video game sales. And I've been thinking for a while regarding this channel and how to best move forward this segment that I do call Video Game News with Paul Gale Network. What should I do? Because there are some that love the way it goes, right? News story after news story, some personal things in there, my beliefs, philosophy, approach. Sometimes we get a little bit distracted or start talking philosophy and life and whatnot. But once every Thursday, today's Friday in this case, once a week, usually we get to a video game sales segment. And some people, the numbers aren't really their thing, but they stick around because it's interesting enough, because my delivery or my enthusiasm kind of rubs off. Some people stick around because they're actually interested. Some tune off at that point because numbers aren't their thing, right? And that's okay. Whoever you are, that's fine. Some people don't even come to my channel for video game news. They come for my martial arts tutorial, and that's also cool. Or some like my entertainment when I randomly do something like a Dragon Ball Z shoot, or something like that. But I was thinking, since something that is very consistent is the Famitsu Weekly Report. It comes out every Thursday. Like I said, today it's a day late, and today also represents 2 weeks worth of data, since last week Famitsu was on vacation and they didn't have sales talk to share. But here we have it. So this is 2 weeks in one for you. Once a month we get NPD data from Matt Piscatella over on Twitter. So I was thinking of splitting into its own section video game news apart from video game sales. And video game sales talk would still be uploaded to the channel, but it would be its own thing. It would be, all right, hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for some video game sales talk. And it would be, PGN video game sales talk. And I would break down that weekly chart from Famitsu or from NPD, and you would probably get 5 designated videos throughout the month. Whenever we got new sales updates, that's what it would be on. And It would mean more videos to the channel potentially, because I don't do video game news coverage every day necessarily, but video game news would still happen throughout the week as they were, but a separate video just for sales. If you were only interested in the sales, because there are also people in another category that kind of don't care about the video game news necessarily, or they get their video game news from someone else, whether they're watching another content creator, scrolling on YouTube, Twitter, what have you, social media, and they're just finding out this information throughout the day anyways. But they like the sales talk, because even though that could be found out on their own, it's my reading of the data and then my interpretation of the sales and the stats, and trying to provide accurate assumptions on what's going to happen next and my overview of it. Some find that valuable. So I'm considering doing some type of split. You'll have to let me know in the comments section below. Would you like to see video game news with PGN basically stop when we get to sales talk, and then whatever that last story is the last story? Now today, for instance, there weren't a whole lot of things to talk about. We talked about E3, we talked about Christina Aguilera's video, and the final thing I'm going to talk about wrapping up after this is something on Mario Kart 9. But that's a pretty short, otherwise, video game news day. Especially if I didn't stretch out that E3 segment talking about the pandemic and what to do and how to take advantage of that time, right? Which sometimes I don't dive off like that. That makes for a very short video. Sometimes a shorter video is easier to, watch though. But like I said, let me know. I'd appreciate the feedback. Would you go for video game news being its own thing and sales approximately 5 times a month being its own thing? That way it doesn't make a Newsday video so lopsided where it's 20 minutes long and then, a whopping 10 minutes were sales talk. Something that people either like or don't like. Maybe you like both. And if you like both, I guess you could watch 2 different videos. But I also don't want to inconvenience you, the viewer. If you wanted both, now you wouldn't have them all in one section. You'd have to be clicking 2 videos, Try to factor in all of those things. So I might do a little bit of an experiment right now. And today might be the first day where I do both. So I'm going to act as though I'm beginning a new video right now from the start. If you're watching this video, thanks in advance for dealing with this kind of a funny cut right here. And if you're just watching this for the first time, well, hopefully it all makes sense. Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for the first episode of Video Game Sales. Previously on my channel, I talked about video game sales in a segment called Video Game News with Paul Gale Network. However, from now on, I'm going to have a designated video that comes out, and it's going to be just about the latest sales coming out of Japan, North America, Europe, or wherever we happen to get the data from on that given day. Today, for this episode, we're going to take a look at the Famitsu sales charts from Japan. This represents week 52 and week 1 of 2022. Really, it occupies that December 20th through January 2nd time frame, so only 2 days go into 2022. The charts have it listed as week 1, but in reality, let's realize that 12 of these 14 days are still 2021, and only 2 are from 2022. That being said, these are the top 10 best-selling games in Japan for that 2-week time frame. In number 1 spot, we've got Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl coming in at a whopping 231,275 copies sold. That is up 98% from the previous week. These numbers also, I will tell you in case you are new to this segment in any capacity, represent only physical sales and only in Japan. In the number 2 spot is Mario Party Superstars with 206,145 copies sold. That's up 240%. At 3 is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with 104,540 copies sold, up 272%. In fourth place is Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain, moving 87,970 copies, up 160%. In fifth place is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, with 83,491 copies sold. That's up 216%. In sixth place is Momotaro Dentetsu, with 78,350 copies sold, up 392% from the previous week. In seventh is Animal Crossing New Horizons, which moved 78,311 copies. It was up 187%. In eighth place is Minecraft on Nintendo Switch, with 74,644 copies sold, up 152%. At ninth is Ring Fit Adventure, with 46,111 copies sold, bringing it up 232% over the previous week. And at 10th place is Pokemon Sword and Shield, with 35,441 copies sold, up 149% over its previous week. Now, there is a reason why these percentages are up so much over their previous week, and that's because, to be fair, this is 2 weeks worth of sales compared to 1 week worth of sales. Usually we get these every week. Famitsu had a break in Japan last week, which is why we didn't get December 20th through December 26th, and then the 27th through January 2nd. If we did, the breakdown would have been split a little bit differently, and you would have had a much different percentage in growth, incline, or in decline from just one previous week. However, even if you split these more or less in half and said, 115,000 approximately per week for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, 103,000 for Mario Party, 52,000 for Mario Kart 8, 43,000 for Big Brain Academy, 41,500 for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, etc. That's still some pretty big numbers. I mean, the fact that Pokemon Sword and Shield charted so high, ranking 10th place with 35,441 copies sold for the 2 weeks. Like I said, if you split that in two, that's still about 17,000 and change sold per week for those last 2 weeks, all while Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are out and still hot and new on the market, selling near 250,000 in that 2 week frame. So that's very impressive. Sometimes we get a PlayStation game on these charts. This, by the way, is not a Nintendo only chart. This represents all games. So if PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, if one of those systems had a title that was in the top 10, it would be here. The reason why you're seeing only Nintendo is because the top 10 best-selling games were all on Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch has had a phenomenal 2021. It broke some records that year, with 33 months of consecutive number one spots in terms of sales sold in the United States on that end. And in Japan, for the first time since 1989, a 22-year record it took to break finally happened when Nintendo Switch charted not just the top 10, but the top 30, every single one of the games in the top 30, all on Nintendo Switch. That wasn't done prior since the NES days, the Famicom days in Japan. And that happened actually 4 times in 2021. We don't have the top 30 charts yet, but we will in time, and we'll see if it happened another time, making it 5 or potentially 6. But that is the software side of things. We're going to go into the hardware side. On the hardware end, once again, this represents 2 weeks worth of data. And Nintendo Switch came in at number 1 with 393,980 copies sold. This compares to the previous week's 176,000. Once again, though, that 176 is 1 week's worth. This 393 is 2 weeks worth. I anticipated that the final 2 weeks of the year in Japan would give us 400,000. I was very close with 393,980. If you take that 393 and divide it by 2, you are looking at less than 200,000 per week. That is still higher than that 176. We don't know what the exact split was, Could it be something like 196 and 197? Maybe. Or was one of them 200 and one of them 193? That's also a possibility. We don't know the exact breakdown. But regardless, pretty sizable growth. This 393, however, is less than the 590 for last year's respective 2-week frame. However, it's still pretty powerful of a system for a console that is about to turn 5 years old. To still be delivering these types of numbers is fantastic. You can see that the year to date for 2021 was 5.7 million, and the year to date last year, clearing to the end of 2020, was 6.2 million. The total sales in Japan for the Nintendo Switch at this point are at 23,115,427. This is phenomenal. The PlayStation 5 came in second place with 72,064 units sold. That is a lot higher for that 2-week frame than the previous week's 8,664. It's also better than what Sony gave to Japan last year in that respective time frame, which was 23,820 copies. Its year-to-date is 1,014,862. Last year's year-to-date was 265,782. Keep in mind, last year the PlayStation 5 was only out for 6 weeks in the end of the year, so this number should be higher, right? And that brings PlayStation 5's lifetime-to-date total to 1,270,012 units sold in Japan. Now, I will say this was a PlayStation 5 success for the week and a personal success for Paul Gale Network because I had exclusive news indicating that the sales were going to be tenfold for PlayStation 5 in the 4-week frame of December 13th through January 9th. And sure enough, if you add up 8,600 plus 72,000, you're at about 80,000. And our numbers for those few weeks prior ranged from 1 to 9,000. So 10 times 9,000 is 90,000. We have 1 week to go before PlayStation 5's 4-week run from my numbers are up. And we'll see how close do we get to 90,000. Maybe Sony even ships out more. Hopefully, right? Xbox Series, this includes S and X, moved 2,159 copies last week in Japan, slightly down from the 2,889. And if you think about it, that's 2,159 for 2 weeks, so it did actually drop fairly significantly from that previous 1 week's worth of data. It's up from last year's stock of 339 for the week. It brings the year-to-date to 97,757. Last year's to date, kind of like PlayStation, out for just several weeks in the end of the year. It did beat quite considerably their 31,558, and it brings their total to 129,181. The Nintendo 3DS, still on its last legs, but people still buying them. 670 units sold. PlayStation 4 at 68 units sold. You're looking at the lifetime of these, and 3DS, 24,587,768. The Nintendo Switch has been out for a lot shorter of an amount of time, and it's only about 1.472 million away. So 1,472,000 units away. This is something that's going to happen before summer. And that's pretty impressive because the Nintendo 3DS was a successful system worldwide. It didn't do DS numbers, but it was a success story, selling close to 80 million. And in Japan, it did quite well with nearly 25. Nintendo Switch is going to break 25 next year in Japan. PlayStation 4 at 9,394,968 is definitely that continuous sign that Sony is slowly going down in Japan from PlayStation to PlayStation 2, but then 3, 4, 5, even PSP to PS Vita to nothing existing on the portable side now. The future doesn't look necessarily bright for PS5 in Japan, but it could potentially be a system that still sells, 6.5, 7 million in Japan, provided Sony ships out enough. Sony has made it pretty clear that They care much more for the West, and that includes United States, Canada, Europe, South America, and if you go on the other side, Australia, than they do Japan. Xbox, meanwhile, if they wanted to, just for fun, have that 1 week where they surpassed PlayStation 5 in Sony's home country, it would have had to be that week of December 6th through the 12th, realistically. Because at that week they were almost neck and neck, but Sony shipped more, and now in these 4-week span that we're at in this current time frame, in which we have that 1 week left to go through the 9th of January, I don't think Xbox is going to pass PS5. But, that's just more for something that is kind of a, hey, Xbox beat PlayStation in Japan for the first time ever. Kind of a funny thing like that. But that's about it. Usually, like I said, I cover video game sales as a part of my video game news day videos, but right now I am trying something different, giving you a designated breakdown, comprehensive look at sales in its own video. I will also combine this with my video game news video and put it at the end, but I think moving forward, it's probably going to be just this delivery of video game sales on its own. But we'll see. Now, there is one other thing I wanted to add to today's video game sales talk video, and that is regarding Nintendo Switch sales in 2022 and where I see them ending up at. Granted, we don't know the final numbers sold in 2021, but we know that at some point in late December, the 100 millionth Nintendo Switch was sold. So assuming that we're at about 102 million as of January 1st, my estimate is that we will see another 20 million sell throughout the calendar year of 2022, and that as of December 31st, 2022, we'll be at approximately 122 million Nintendo Switches out there. My further breakdown is something like this: 8.5 million to United States, 5.5 million to Europe, 4.5 million to Japan, and 1.5 million to other territories. There are things that we don't know, though, beyond just how many exactly were sold. Things like chip shortages and just how much of an impact will that have on the video game industry, at this point, Nintendo specifically. Will they be able to manufacture enough? Will there be any price drops on the Nintendo Switch Lite, Nintendo Switch, or Nintendo Switch OLED? Likely not on the last, but potentially on the first two, right? Will there be a player's choice line of permanently reduced software that gets implemented into Nintendo's strategy at some point this year, thus especially complemented with a price drop of Nintendo Switch base models? People could look at it and say, well, now I could get a system and a couple of games for a lot less than just what it was before, correct? Will there be any key software that gets released this year that we don't know about yet that is going to be a massive hardware driver? People will buy a Nintendo Switch to play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, but not in as significant of a drove as a new title that is of similar size that isn't a sequel. Because it's safe to say that if people really wanted Breath of the Wild 2, they would have purchased a Nintendo Switch in the beginning to play Breath of the Wild and then just bought Breath of the Wild 2, contributing just to software, not for hardware. Unless if there are different SKUs of the console with gold on it and special art to make people double dip and buy a second, third, fourth, whatever have you, Nintendo Switch. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about purely new people buying a Nintendo Switch just to play Breath of the Wild 2. It will happen, though. There will be enough positive word of mouth that people that have been kind of sleeping on Nintendo Switch for 5.5 years now say, okay, it's unavoidable. Everyone's talking about Breath of the Wild 2. I need to get that first one. I'm going to pick up the system and both and have a good time. That'll happen, but smaller percentage. So I'm talking about, would there be a big enough game that comes out this year that's going to drive hardware beyond what we think it's going to drive? Something that's going to be a big spike, what's strong enough to do that? New Pokemon games, people are going to buy hardware for it, but a lot of the people that are going to buy a Nintendo Switch have one to play the existing Pokemon games, unless if Arceus is of a high enough quality that it brings in a dormant Pokemon fan base that doesn't already have the Nintendo Switch and hasn't already been purchasing the likes of Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, Sword and Shield, Diamond and Pearl remakes, you know what I mean? Snap, new Pokemon Snap for that matter, Pokemon Tournament DX, Pokken Tournament DX. So my point is, not necessarily will just a new Pokemon game or just a new Zelda game guarantee brand new massive sales that really do something shocking and just another outlier in Nintendo Switch's trajectory. What could it be though? Could a new Star Fox drive it? It could be a boost, but not to some significant long-term boost, kind of like Animal Crossing was, but Animal Crossing is a very rare game. Could an F-Zero game? F-Zero would sell well. I'm confident that it would bring in new people to buy the system, but not of that level. I think the best chance at something shocking coming to bring in more people is honestly Mario Kart 9. Yes, a lot of people already have Mario Kart 8, but you've also had people that have fallen off or out of interest in Mario Kart 8. So the new people that are coming into the system, if they're seeing that a game, even one that they don't have that looks exciting, that's new to them because they didn't have a Wii U in Mario Kart 8, even if they would normally be willing to buy it because it would be a new experience, if they see the rest of the community that they follow, their friends, start talking less and less about it and it's not as vibrant of a topic, that may sway them into, I don't need to buy a Nintendo Switch right now because that ecosystem of Mario Kart isn't as live and as thriving as it once was. But a Mario Kart 9 will sell in such a tremendous quantity to the existing massive 110 million at that point install base of Nintendo Switch that such a significant percentage of people will be playing it that it's going to have this tremendous ripple effect into bringing a lot of new people in at like, okay, now's the time I'm going to buy Nintendo Switch because there's all this other software that I've been missing out on, but Mario Kart 9 is the hot thing. I need to hop on top of it. If Nintendo could release Mario Kart 9 at the right time, it will propel hardware almost at Animal Crossing levels, I feel. I'm wondering though, should Nintendo wait on Mario Kart 9 and release it simultaneously as a cross-gen title that ends the Nintendo Switch life, or one of those last big games that come out on that console, while simultaneously launching for the Nintendo Switch 2. So you deliver highly to that 140 or so million install base of Nintendo Switch owners, while also showing this is how much better it looks, it runs, etc. on Nintendo Switch 2. You don't have to buy the new system, but there are perks to it. No one of the old system is alienated, but that's kind of speculation talk. When does Nintendo release it? When is the right time? Kind of up in the air. Fun to speculate. Anyways, that's going to do it today for Video Game Sales with Paul Gale Network. Thank you for watching with me. This is something that I'm very familiar with. I've been covering sales for many years and I love it. So although it's familiar for me to talk about, to write about, this is officially the first entry in a new designated segment just for sales. So if you liked it, consider subscribing, liking, commenting, talking back and forth, as I would appreciate to hear more and hear of what you think and where do you think Nintendo Switch is going to land in 2022, and for that matter, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. I know that today was pretty Nintendo heavy, but honestly, when you look at the Japanese sales charts, courtesy of Famitsu, which by the way, thank you to Chris1964 and the installbaseforum.com forums for these charts the way that they are presented. When you look at these charts, it's hard to not talk about Nintendo because it's all you see in software for the majority of the time. And hardware, it's just so high on Nintendo's side that that's what kind of cannibalizes the conversation. But things will change. We'll get more PlayStations in there, more Xboxes in there. We'll get some top 30s when we go into, NPD data or digital data coming out of Europe or what have you. You're going to have more conversation that represents more evenly, more equally, more sides of the spectrum. So if you're not the biggest Nintendo fan, don't worry. There's more content to come in terms of sales for you. If you do like Nintendo, hey, be happy that the platform that you like is succeeding, but also know that there will be conversations of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series and their successes or failures for all three at any time, right? We like to call it as it is, and yeah, have a good time. Okay, thanks again for watching. This is PGN signing out. I hope you all have a good one. Thanks for joining me today for this special first official video game sales video on my channel. Take it easy. Bye. Alright, so if you made it to the end of Video Game News with Paul Gale Network, you see that the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about today was Mario Kart 9. There are rumors going all over the internet that the game is in its final stages of development, and with it being so near to completion, presumably, it might even be shown off this year. Could it be ready for release? That's up in the air. Rumors say yes, it's coming this year. Rumors say no, it's coming next year, but will be shown this year. Rumors say it's going to be shown when it's ready, but it will come out shortly after. There's talks and speculation on, does it get a dual release of Mario Kart 9, Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch 2, thus presumably making this game a little bit farther into the future, like a couple of years away, or no, it's coming out on Nintendo Switch, and it will just be one of those titles that will benefit from potentially running on Nintendo Switch 2 in a better capacity with better graphics and stuff like that, if there is such a thing as a Nintendo Switch 2 that does indeed run games better in terms of visuals and performance and stuff. So a lot of rumor right now, a lot of speculation without any concrete evidence. All I can say is that I personally do believe that yes, Mario Kart 9 is definitely in development. I would be shocked if after Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out on Nintendo Switch, the next Mario Kart game wasn't already being worked on. I would be pretty surprised, in fact, if Mario Kart 9 wasn't in development sometime in between Mario Kart 8 and Wii U and Deluxe, right? No way would they be ready for a next ambitious Mario Kart 9 on Nintendo Switch, so they made 8 into 8 Deluxe on Nintendo Switch, but at some point, a ninth entry in the series or something else Nintendo Kart related, a different spin on it, was being worked on. And, could it be such a long development cycle because it's so grand and there's some giant story that's being worked on in it, a big adventure mode, voice acting, actual worlds to explore and stages and mission-based scenarios? Could it have some kind of crazy Mario Kart 99 mode where more players than ever before are on the tracks at once? Could it be a giant Nintendo Kart kind of thing where it's got characters from all sorts of Nintendo franchises to where it's called Mario Kart still, but it really is more of a Smash Brothers kind of thing? Mario Kart Smash. I don't think it would be called that, but you know what I'm saying? What's taken so long? I don't know. But to not be in development in some capacity over the last several years seems very unlikely. So, more as it comes, but I thought I'd share this with you that, hey, be happy and thrilled if we see Mario Kart 9 this year, but also remember, you heard it back on January 7th that, according to many reports, it's very likely to show up in 2022. We'll see. There are probably going to be 3 or 4 Nintendo Directs this year, right? I would love it if one of them had Mario Kart 9 as its debut star. Okay, Thanks for joining me today for Video Game News with Paul Gale Network. I hope you all have a good one. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.